Do you always clean elevators like you're saving lives, Mr. Carter? The voice sliced through the crisp morning air, colder than the glass skyline behind her. Liam Carter straightened up from his maintenance cart, startled. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not on the rooftop terrace. Not where deals worth billions were toasted with aged whiskey and words sharper than knives. He turned mop in hand. And there she was. Amelia Drake, CEO of Aurora Holdings, heiress, ice queen in a custom navy suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She stood by the edge of the marble terrace, arms crossed, heels planted like punctuation marks in power. I'm sorry. Liam blinked, unsure if she was talking to him or to someone invisible behind him. You heard me, she said. Do you mop like that for everyone, or just when there's a child trapped between steel and panic? Liam hesitated. I just did what anyone would have done. Amelia's eyes narrowed, dark, calculating. Incorrect. Most people freeze. You wedged open a malfunctioning elevator with a screwdriver, hoisted yourself in, and pulled a child to safety before fire crews even arrived. That's not what anyone would do. He said nothing. She stepped closer, her perfume clean and unsentimental. Sit. Excuse me. There's a chair. Use it. You'll want to be seated for what I'm about to offer. Liam looked around. The rooftop was empty except for a single steel chair and a small round table, probably meant for espresso breaks between executives plotting mergers and acquisitions. Slowly, he sat. Amelia remained standing. I need a husband, she said. Silence. Liam blinked again. Once. Twice. Surely he misheard. I'm sorry. What? You heard me. Her tone never changed. 3 months. Legal marriage. Public enough to shift narrative. Private enough to remain manageable. In return, she pulled a thick envelope from her leather folder and placed it on the table. It landed with a quiet, decisive thud. You'll receive full custody of your daughter, guaranteed health insurance, and a house. Free and clear. Liam stared at her. Is this a prank? Is there a camera somewhere? No, there's a lawyer. He drafted the documents. He didn't touch the envelope. Why me? He asked. Voice low. You don't even know me. I don't need to know you. I've seen enough. You're respectable, emotionally disciplined, and you have nothing to gain from exploiting me. I have everything to lose by saying yes. Do you? She sat down across from him now, the first sign that this was not a passing joke. Liam shook his head slowly. Look, Miss Drake. Amelia. Miss Drake, he repeated firmly. I'm just a janitor. You're a father, she corrected. That means more to me than any C-suite charmer with a closet full of skeletons and a yacht full of NDAs. He frowned. You need headlines, you hire a PR firm. You don't propose. She leaned forward, voice like a scalpel. The board is considering a vote of no confidence. There's been noise about my lack of emotional stability, leadership transparency, and humanity. Liam finished for her. She smiled. Not the warm kind. The kind that hides bruises behind cashmere. Exactly. So I'm showing them something they can't fake on paper. A family. A softer side. A fake marriage. A temporary contract. He looked away, heart pounding. I don't lie to my daughter, and I don't play games. She snapped. This isn't a romance. This is mutual benefit. You get security, I get survival. Liam's jaw tensed. This is insane. Is it more insane than letting your child go without health care? She asked, each word deliberate venom coated in velvet. Because I checked. June has a rare respiratory condition, doesn't she? He froze. She missed school last week. Your shift schedule changed suddenly. You cleaned the ICU floor 3 nights in a row. She tilted her head. I notice things. That's private. So is my collapse, Mr. Carter. But here we are, 2 strangers trying to keep something from crumbling. He stood. I don't need your charity. She stood too. It's not charity, it's math. You give me a story. I give you a future. He took a shaky breath, suddenly feeling the city tilt beneath him. I lost my wife, he said quietly, because her insurance ran out. I watched her slip away in a plastic chair outside the ER because the system said she wasn't urgent enough. Amelia blinked. And you think I'll put my daughter through another deal made in desperation? I think, she said gently, now, almost too gently, that you'd do anything to keep her alive. There was a long, aching pause. The kind that says more than shouting ever could. She reached into her folder again, pulled out a pen. I'm signing now. You can read it later, or never. She clicked the pen open, signed the last page with the cold elegance of someone who's done this sort of thing before. Or at least, something like it. She slid the folder toward him. I'll be at your place tomorrow. 6:30 sharp. He stared at the folder, then at her. She was already walking away. Wait, what if I say no? Amelia paused at the door, then turned, the wind catching her coat like a cape. Then I'll find someone else, she said. But he won't be as good, and with that she was gone. Only the folder remained glowing in the early sun, along with a mop, a broken heart, and one impossible decision. The envelope sat untouched on the chipped kitchen table. It had been 12 hours since Amelia Drake made her proposal. 12 hours since Liam Carter walked out of that rooftop garden with a mop in one hand and a contract that could change his daughter's life in the other. He hadn't opened it. Not yet. Instead, he stood by the sink scrubbing the same cereal bowl for the third time long after June had gone to bed. Outside, rain tapped softly on the window pane. Inside, silence echoed louder than any storm. He turned toward the living room. There, in the glow of a small nightlight, his daughter slept curled on their worn couch surrounded by crayon drawings and half-stuffed animals. Her breathing was shallow but steady, a rhythm he'd memorized, counted, prayed over. Liam looked back at the envelope. God help me, he muttered, then pulled up a chair. He opened it slowly, like defusing a bomb. Inside, 36 pages, crisp, precise, printed in legal size. The first line read, Marriage Agreement. Drake, Carter. Confidential. He began to read. Clause 1. The marriage shall be legally binding for a duration of no less than 90 days, beginning from the signing of the document and recognition by civil authorities. Clause 2. Both parties shall cohabitate in the residence of Mr. Liam Carter, located at address redacted, to present a realistic domestic narrative for press and stakeholders. Liam frowned. She wanted to live. Here, the kitchen tiles were cracked. The heater hissed every night like it had secrets to confess. The wallpaper peeled in corners like old wounds. It wasn't a home for someone like her. Clause 5 physical intimacy is neither required nor implied. Any romantic entanglement beyond public display for press events shall be considered incidental and shall not alter the terms. He laughed bitter and brief. Of course, he said to the empty room. God forbid emotions get in the way of business. He flipped to the final page. Clause 17. Upon completion of contract, Mr. Carter shall receive full ownership of a 2-bedroom property in Elmhurst. Mr. Carter shall retain full custody of June Carter with a lifetime private medical plan provided under Aurora Holdings Legacy Care Package. All terms are non-negotiable after mutual signature. A house, medical coverage, stability, for June. For the first time in years, Liam felt what he hadn't allowed himself to feel, relief just out of reach. He stared at June's drawing still taped to the fridge, a stick-figure family of 3. Mommy in the clouds, Daddy with a big mop, and a girl with yellow curls holding both their hands. He pressed his palm flat on the paper. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispered. Behind him, a tiny voice murmured, Is it about the mean lady? He turned. June stood in her pajamas, clutching a worn rabbit, eyes wide but calm. She always looked smaller when she was brave. She's not mean, Liam said gently. Just different. June crawled into his lap without asking. Is she going to live with us? Liam hesitated. Maybe. For a little while. June blinked up at him. Is she sick? That startled him. Why would you think that? Because people only move in when they need help. She said it like it was obvious. Like Mr. Joe from the downstairs apartment. Remember? After his leg got tired. Liam smiled sadly. No, sweet pea. She's not sick. June yawned. Then she's lonely. He couldn't argue with that. She leaned her head on his shoulder. If she comes, can I give her my extra blankie? He kissed the top of her curls. That's very kind of you. She can sit next to me on the bus, but she has to like peanut butter. That's the rule. Liam hugged her tighter. I'll let her know. They sat like that for a while, a janitor with calloused hands, a little girl with too much wisdom, and a contract sitting on the table like a sleeping dragon. The next morning, Liam took the contract to work and found a quiet moment in the boiler room. He brought it to Carl, the building's night security guard and his closest friend in the building. Carl read it in silence, glasses slipping to the edge of his nose. Then he leaned back. Well, damn, he muttered. This ain't even the weirdest thing I've seen in this city. Remember the guy who married a tree last year? Liam gave a tight smile. Not helping. Carl grew serious. Look, man, I've seen the way you hustle for that kid. No one works double shifts with busted knees and a broken heart unless they're trying to keep someone else breathing. Liam looked away. Carl lowered his voice. I'm not saying do it. I'm saying, if you do, don't forget who you are. Don't let her money buy that. Liam nodded slowly. That night, after June went to bed, Liam pulled out the contract again. He picked up the pen. Handshaking, he signed his name under hers. Not for himself, not even for Amelia Drake. For the little girl with the crayon drawings and the shallow breath who believed in peanut butter and blanket diplomacy. The next morning at 6:02 a.m., Amelia Drake received a single text. You can move in. Door will be open. She didn't reply. But 2 hours later, a black car pulled up in front of Liam's crumbling porch. And she stepped out, not as a CEO, not as a bride, but as a stranger walking straight into someone else's life, with a suitcase full of contracts and a heart she hadn't opened in decades. The black car pulled away, leaving behind a silence so sharp it could have cut glass. Amelia Drake stood on the cracked sidewalk, her Louboutin heels wobbling slightly against uneven concrete. In one hand, a sleek, monogrammed suitcase. In the other, a phone she hadn't checked in 5 whole minutes, a personal record. Before her stood Liam Carter's house, if you could call it that. The roof dipped slightly to the left. The screen door was hanging by one hinge, and the porch creaked like it had opinions. Still, the porch light was on, and the door was open. She took a breath, quick, controlled, almost clinical, and stepped inside. Liam was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, apron stained with tomato sauce. The smell of garlic and something warm drifted through the air. You're early, he said without turning. I'm precise, she corrected. He glanced over his shoulder. That suitcase have Wi-Fi built in, or is that just the handle? Her brow lifted. It has a power bank and anti-theft alarm. Figures. She stepped into the narrow hallway, her heels clicking against the old hardwood. Every creak in the floor sounded like protest. This place? She murmured, trying to disguise her dismay. It's not a penthouse, Liam said plainly, but it's clean, safe, and full of love. 2 out of 3 should impress you. She said nothing. June came bouncing out from behind the couch, still wearing her school jumper, a purple crayon tucked behind one ear. You're here, she grinned. I saved you the last chocolate chip. Before Amelia could respond, the girl held out a small, uneven cookie with one bite missing. It's a little broken, but it's still sweet. Amelia blinked, frozen in place. No assistant had ever handed her anything like that. Thank you, she managed. I'll save it for later. You can have the big half. June whispered like it was a state secret, then skipped away, leaving the cookie on a napkin beside Amelia's suitcase. Liam smirked. Consider that your welcome basket. She ignored the sarcasm and followed him into the kitchen. The room was cramped, but warm windows fogged from the steam walls decorated with crayon art and paper hearts that said things like, Best dad ever, and I love you bigger than Pluto. Amelia stared. Your daughter's sentimental. She's 7, Liam said. What's your excuse? She opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. There was a dented kettle whistling on the stove, a wooden spoon resting on a napkin, a vase with wildflowers wilting on the counter. Everything about this place screamed lived in. She'd never lived anywhere that didn't smell like lavender sanitizer and legal ink. Dinner was an experience. The table was small and round legs uneven, so it wobbled every time someone reached for the salt. Liam served spaghetti, homemade garlic bread, and lemonade in mismatched mugs. June made a toast with apple juice. To new friends. And weird contracts. Amelia nearly choked. Liam didn't say anything, just sipped quietly, watching her. Midway through the meal, Amelia pulled out her tablet. She had 43 unread emails. She began scrolling. Liam set down his fork. Put it away. She didn't look up. I have work. You're not in the office. You're at my table. In this house we eat together. She blinked. I wasn't aware I'd entered a monastery. June whispered, That means no phones, right? Yes, sweetheart, Liam said. That's exactly what it means. Amelia hesitated. Slowly, reluctantly, she clicked the tablet off and placed it beside her plate. There she said. Happy, no, Liam said. But I'll take what I can get. After dinner, June insisted on giving Amelia the tour. It took 3 minutes. The bathroom was the size of a broom closet. The hallway tilted slightly. The second bedroom had faded wallpaper with cartoon stars and a single twin bed covered in stuffed animals. This is your room, June said proudly. I cleaned it all by myself. There was a blanket folded at the edge of the bed and a little note taped to the lamp. Welcome. Please don't be scared of the spider in the corner. He's shy. Amelia stared at the note, then at the ceiling. There's a what? Just kidding. June giggled. His name's Pepper. Amelia let out a sound somewhere between a gasp and a groan. Later that night, long after June had gone to bed, Amelia stood in the small guest room suitcase, still closed tablet glowing dimly in her hands. Liam knocked once and stepped in. You okay? She looked up. This room smells like peanut butter and optimism. It's the air freshener, he said dryly. She paused. Do you actually believe this is going to work? Liam leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Define work. I mean this. Living together. Pretending. Playing house with someone you barely know. He shrugged. I don't have to pretend to care about June. Or to be decent. That's not play acting. She looked down. I don't do well with messes. He smiled. Then you picked the wrong janitor. That surprised a soft laugh from her. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. And what if I screw it up, you will, he said gently, and so will I. But June won't care. She's already shared her cookie with you. That's sacred in this house. A long beat passed. Amelia's voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know how to belong anywhere. Liam's eyes softened. You don't have to belong all at once. Just don't run. She nodded barely. He turned to go but paused at the door. By the way, thanks for putting your tablet down at dinner. It wasn't optional. He smiled. Exactly. That night, as Amelia lay in the too small bed beneath a blanket that smelled faintly of cinnamon and hope, she found the cookie still on the napkin. She stared at it for a long time, then broke it in half and ate the smaller piece. The rest she placed on her nightstand. Half for her, half for something she didn't understand yet. But maybe, just maybe, she was starting to want to. And in the middle of the night, without knowing why, she reached for the extra blanket June had left her, and didn't wake up cold. Amelia sat stiffly at the dinner table, hands folded neatly in her lap, staring at the chipped salt shaker like it might explain to her what she was doing here. The kitchen smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary. A faint Motown melody played on the old radio in the corner, crackling through static. June hummed along, swinging her feet under the table. Liam brought over a dish of mashed potatoes and set it down in front of her. You don't have to sit like you're posing for an oil painting, he said, sliding into his chair across from her. Relax, it's just dinner. Amelia arched an eyebrow. Relaxation is not part of my daily vocabulary. June giggled. I can teach you. I'm good at relaxing. She's got a certificate, Liam said, deadpan. Made it herself with glitter glue. June beamed proudly. It's on the fridge. Amelia managed a small smile, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Her tablet was beside her plate screen, aglow with silent notifications. Unread emails. Stock alerts. A missed call from the COO. She picked it up. Liam paused, fork halfway to his mouth. We don't do screens at the table. She didn't look up. I have a shareholder meeting in the morning. I need to be prepared, and I need to keep my daughter from thinking the people at this table are robots, he said flatly. Amelia raised her gaze. Slowly, expression unreadable. I wasn't aware dinner came with behavioral conditions. Liam leaned back in his chair. In this house we eat together. We talk, we chew, we ask how each other's day was. That's the whole deal. She stared at him, then at June, who was busy building a mashed potato mountain with her spoon. After a long beat, Amelia pressed the button on her tablet, shutting it off with a reluctant sigh. I suppose I can try. Chewing. Liam smirked. That's the spirit. Dinner continued with a strange sort of rhythm. June did most of the talking about school, her art project, and a classmate named Ethan, who once sneezed glitter. Liam listened, asked questions, laughed at the right places. Amelia watched. Not the food, not the fork in her hand, but the way Liam leaned in when June spoke, the way his eyes softened, how he didn't interrupt, didn't rush. It was like watching a foreign language in motion. Something stirred in her chest, something unfamiliar, uncomfortable. She took a sip of water and looked away. After dinner, June reached out with jelly-stained fingers for a hug. Amelia froze. The child's arms were open, expectant, bright. Amelia's instinct was to step back, so she did. June blinked, hands dropping slowly to her sides. Her smile faltered. It's okay, she whispered. Maybe next time. Liam didn't say a word, but the silence was loud. Later that night, Liam stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. The radio played quietly. The rest of the house was still. Amelia hovered near the doorway. About earlier, she began. He didn't turn around. What part? Ignoring dinner, refusing to hug a kid. She stiffened. I didn't mean to hurt her. You didn't have to mean it, he said. You still did. She exhaled, crossing her arms. I wasn't raised with affection. Everything had a condition, a return on investment. Love was a negotiation. It still is. Liam finally turned dish towel in hand. I grew up in a trailer with 2 busted chairs, a mother who kissed my scraped knees, and a father who taught me to say, I'm sorry, before I'm right. He looked at her eyes steady. Don't tell me love's a negotiation. That's just fear dressed in silk. Amelia flinched. You think I'm afraid I think you're exhausted, he said quietly, of pretending you're not. That hit her harder than she expected. She didn't reply. Instead, she walked past him and into the living room. She sat on the couch and stared at the framed drawing June had given her earlier that day. 3 stick figures, 1 tall with brown hair, 1 small with yellow curls, 1 with a black square briefcase for a body. In big bubble letters, My New Family. Her throat tightened. That night in bed, Amelia couldn't sleep. Not because of the creaky ceiling or the faded sheets, but because of what Liam said. Because of how June looked at her. Because of how alien it felt to be in a place where kindness wasn't currency, but instinct. She closed her eyes and for the first time in years remembered a day from her childhood. She had drawn a picture for her father, stick figures and all. He'd glanced at it, then handed it to his assistant with a cold violet. It had never made it to a fridge. The next morning, Amelia stood in the kitchen before Liam came in. June was still asleep. She held a small index card in one hand, her phone in the other. She searched how to make cookies with kids and copied the simplest recipe. Peanut butter, sugar, egg, mix, bake, no measuring cups in sight, just a tea mug and a lot of guesses. Flour dusted the counter. Dough stuck to her wristwatch. She swore once under her breath. But when June patted in, eyes still sleepy, she stopped. Are you baking? June gasped. I'm attempting. The little girl ran forward, eyes wide. Can I help? Amelia paused, then handed her the spoon. You're officially promoted to head mixer. June giggled. Do I get paid? Amelia smiled faintly. We'll negotiate, but no stock options. When Liam walked into the kitchen 10 minutes later, he stopped in his tracks. Flour. Everywhere. June with peanut butter on her cheek. And Amelia Drake, world-class CEO, wiping dough off her $1,000 blouse with a paper towel that read, "You're doing great," in purple crayon. He grinned. "You're baking." "Don't act so surprised," she said. "I'm highly adaptable." June held up a misshapen ball of dough. "We made cookie mountains," Amelia added. "No glitter sneezes involved." Liam laughed. And for the first time since she walked into their lives, Amelia laughed too freely without caution. That night, as June fell asleep with cookie crumbs on her chin and Amelia wiped down the counter without checking her phone, Liam caught her humming the tune from the radio. Not because she meant to, because she finally felt safe enough to forget not to. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the clerk said, barely looking up from the stack of forms she was stamping. No music, no flowers, no waiting guests. Just the hiss of a printer and the click of Amelia's heels echoing off a dull linoleum floor. Liam glanced sideways at her. She was dressed sharply, of course, slate-gray coat, black gloves, posture straight as a verdict. Not even a strand of her hair dared move out of place. She looked more like someone finalizing a hostile takeover than saying wedding vows. They hadn't kissed. The clerk didn't ask them to. Neither of them offered. "You may file the license at window 4, the woman added. "And congratulations, I guess." Liam gave a nod. "Thanks." June, however, was all in. She clutched a small bouquet of wild daisies picked that morning on the walk to the bus stop and beamed like she'd just witnessed a fairy tale. "I made something," she whispered as they stepped out into the weak spring sunlight. Liam leaned down. "What's that, sweetheart?" From her tiny coat pocket, June pulled out a crumpled tissue paper envelope. Inside it, a hand-folded ring made of white construction paper taped at the ends with a glittery heart drawn on top. Amelia blinked at it, speechless. "It's your real wedding ring," June said proudly, "because the ones you buy at the store don't mean as much as the ones you make with your heart." Liam swallowed hard. Amelia took the ring like it was made of porcelain. She didn't say a word, but her fingers trembled just slightly as she slipped it on. It was too big. It bent sideways, and it shimmered under the sunlight in the only way that mattered. They stopped at the park on the walk home. Liam bought June a popsicle. Amelia stood next to him under the shade of a maple tree, arms crossed tightly against a breeze that wasn't that cold. She watched June skip ahead on the path, twirling like a ballerina with sticky hands. "She made you that ring," Liam said quietly, breaking the silence. Amelia didn't respond. He added, "You can't fake that kind of love." Her voice was low. "I'm not trying to fake anything." He glanced at her. "Aren't you?" She turned to him slowly. "I may be a lot of things, Mr. Carter, but I don't lie to children. That's not what I'm worried about," he said. "I'm worried you're lying to yourself." She looked away. He didn't press further, just stood there beside her while the wind played with the corners of her coat and the sounds of children laughing echoed through the trees. That evening, news broke. One single photograph. It was taken by someone at the courthouse, then picked up by a local outlet, then reposted first on a small blog about unlikely love stories, then on a national tabloid under the headline, "Icy Queen Amelia. Drake marries single dad in shock ceremony." But it wasn't the title that caught attention. It was the image. Amelia, smiling not her public relations smile, but something unguarded, almost warm. Liam, looking at her not with awe or fear, but with quiet understanding. And June, wedged between them, holding their hands with her eyes squeezed shut and her paper bouquet crushed in her fist like joy itself. It went viral within hours. Comments flooded in. "Is this real? I thought she hated kids. The single dad is the hero we didn't know we needed. Please, let this be true love. Please don't ruin this." Amelia sat in her room that night staring at her tablet, the comments scrolling endlessly. A knock at the door. She turned it off before answering. Liam stepped in holding a glass of water. "You okay?" She nodded. He looked at her closely. "You sure?" She hesitated. "Finally, I've been on more magazine covers than I can count. I've rung the opening bell on Wall Street. I've built companies from ash, and yet today..." My hand was shaking holding that paper ring. Liam sat down in the armchair across from her. It's easier to hold the world, he said, than to hold something that actually means something. She looked up at him. Do you think they'll believe us? The press? No. The people? Liam leaned forward. Does it matter? She blinked. It's why we're doing this, isn't it? Public perception. Board approval, narrative management. He shook his head. That's why you started it. That's not why June gave you that ring. Silence again. Then Amelia asked, almost too quietly, Do you think I'm broken? Liam didn't answer right away. Instead, he said, You ever hear how Japanese artisans fix broken pottery? She frowned. What it's called, kintsugi. When something cracks, they fill the gaps with gold. They don't hide the damage. They highlight it, because the history makes it more beautiful. Amelia's throat tightened. You're not broken, Liam said softly. You're just waiting for someone to see the gold. Later that night, while June slept curled up in a blanket fortress, Amelia stood alone in the hallway outside her room. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out the paper ring. The glitter heart had smudged a little. She didn't mind. She walked quietly to the fridge, pulled a magnet loose, and pinned the ring right next to June's latest drawing, a family of 3 holding hands under a giant sun. A sun with gold rays drawn like rivers. And just before she turned away, she whispered so softly, even she wasn't sure she meant to say it out loud, maybe this could be real after all. The power went out during dinner. 1 second they were passing around chicken noodle soup, the next, darkness swept through the house like a hush from the heavens. Liam rose from his seat, instinctive and calm. Breakers probably overloaded again. I'll check the box. Amelia stood too, already reaching for her phone flashlight. This building's wiring is prehistoric. Welcome to Queens, he said with a faint grin, where history lives in every loose socket. June squealed with delight. Can we eat by candlelight like in the movies? Liam glanced back at her. Only if you promise not to set your grilled cheese on fire again. That was one time. 10 minutes later, the living room was aglow with 3 half-burned candles, 2 battery-powered lanterns, and the warm smell of wax and cinnamon. June sat cross-legged on the rug, braiding her doll's hair by candlelight. Liam poured hot cocoa from a thermos he'd kept it warm on the stovetop just in case. And Amelia sat quietly on the couch, her phone finally silent in her lap, its battery dead. She didn't complain, didn't even sigh. She just watched Liam hand June her cocoa with a little paper straw she insisted made it taste better, watched how gently he tucked the blanket around her, how he didn't rush anything, not the cocoa, not the laughter, not the night. She couldn't remember the last time she'd sat in silence without needing to fill it. Liam returned to the couch with a candle and a mug for her. No marshmallows, he said. We're not that fancy. I wouldn't know what to do with marshmallows anyway, she said quietly, staring at the flickering flame. He raised an eyebrow. You'd eat them. Amelia didn't laugh. Instead, she said, When I was 8, my mother forgot my birthday. She was in Tokyo negotiating a merger. My father gave me a lecture on compound interest instead of a cake. Liam was quiet. She continued. That night the housekeeper lit a candle and said we should pretend the power was out, just to make the silence feel less empty. She looked at the flame again. I didn't blow it out until morning. Liam leaned back slowly, letting the story settle. That's a terrible birthday, he said. I've had worse. He glanced toward June, who was humming softly, half asleep. You don't talk about your childhood much. I don't remember most of it, she replied. Just the contracts and the cold. Liam looked at her then, not as the CEO who barged into his home, but as a woman who had lived too long without warmth. You remember more than you admit, he said. You just learned to label it under irrelevant data. Amelia let out a soft breath. Efficiency requires emotional detachment. That's not efficiency, he said. That's damage disguised as discipline. That stopped her. She blinked slowly as if his words had reached a part of her brain no boardroom ever had. Outside wind tapped against the windows. A low rumble of thunder rolled far away. Amelia stared into the candle's flame. When June hugged me that first night, I froze. I wanted to respond, but something inside me just locked. Liam's voice was low. You're not the only one who's ever felt that way. Amelia turned to him. How do you do it? Stay open. Liam shrugged. Because I've seen what closing off does to people, it rots them from the inside. He hesitated. My wife, Kara. She used to hum when she cleaned. Every corner of the house, always the same tune. I didn't realize how much I loved that sound until the day the house went quiet. Amelia's eyes softened. She was denied coverage. Liam continued. A 20-minute delay because of a technicality in her plan. She died in my arms in the ER lobby while I argued with an insurance clerk over whether she qualified as critical enough. The candle between them flickered violently, a sudden draft passing through. I built walls after that, Liam said, but June, she climbed over them, every time. Silence again. Amelia reached forward slowly, trying to adjust the wick of the candle, but her fingers brushed it wrong. The candle tipped. Hot wax spilled over her hand. She hissed in pain. Liam jumped up, grabbing her wrist, gently guiding her to the sink. Cold water, he said firmly. She winced but followed his lead. He held her hand under the stream, careful but firm, his other hand steadying her shoulder. You okay? He asked. I'm fine, she said through clenched teeth. You're not fine, but you will be. Amelia looked at him, then really looked. For the first time without armor. Her voice dropped. What if I'm not meant for this? Not meant for warmth. Or softness. Or... She trailed off. Liam held her gaze. Then you learn. One small thing at a time. You let someone hand you a cookie. You make a mess in a kitchen. You listen to a song without skipping it. He stepped closer. And if someone reaches out, you try not to flinch. Amelia swallowed hard. He gently let go of her hand. The burn was minor, but the tremble in her chest was not. She whispered, You make it sound easy. It's not, he said, but it's worth it. Later that night, long after June had been carried to bed, Amelia stood in the kitchen alone. The candle sat back on the table, its flame rebuilt. Her phone remained dead. She picked up a pen from the junk drawer, found the back of an envelope, and wrote something. Just a few words. Then folded it quietly and tucked it into the corner of the fridge under June's rainbow magnet. The note read, I didn't know light could come from something broken. And beside it, a doodle of a candle burning bright in a dark little house that was slowly becoming a home. The boardroom at Aurora Holdings was colder than usual. Not in temperature, Amelia had ensured the thermostat never dipped below 72, but in the silence that came with corporate tension. The kind you couldn't hear, only feel like a storm building just beyond the glass windows of the 53rd floor. 12 board members, all older, all watching her like a chess piece they weren't sure belonged on the board anymore. Amelia stood at the head of the table, arms loosely crossed, chin raised, heels silent on the marble as she waited for the next strike. It came, of course. It always did. We're all wondering the same thing, said Vincent Granger, COO, salt-haired and perpetually smirking. Is this marriage real, or just another damage control tactic? Laughter, tight and polite, rippled through the room like cold coffee being stirred. Amelia didn't blink. Is the question about optics or legality? Because if it's the latter, the marriage certificate is available for your perusal. Vincent leaned back. Oh, it's legal. We've seen the paperwork. But that doesn't mean it's real. Define real, she said evenly. Someone at the far end chuckled. Emotion. Intimacy. You know, human connection. Another voice piped up. I mean, no offense, Amelia, but we've all known you for over a decade and never once heard you mention dating, let alone love. I don't do sentiment, she replied. No, Vincent smiled. You didn't. Until a janitor with a kid made headlines. The word janitor hung in the air like an insult. Amelia's shoulders tightened. She opened her tablet and tapped twice. The display behind her came to life, a photo of her Liam and June at the courthouse, the one that went viral. Then another June holding her paper bouquet, eyes closed, joy unfiltered. And one more, a candid, blurry photo of Amelia kneeling in front of June, helping her tie her shoe hair blown loose across her face, smiling like she had no idea anyone was watching. The room was quiet now. "I didn't plan for this," Amelia said, voice lower, more measured. "I didn't write a speech or hire a spin doctor. But I married a man who risked his life for someone else's child, who gets up at 5 every morning to make sandwiches with too much peanut butter and not enough sleep, who reads bedtime stories like they matter more than board reports." She paused. "I married kindness, maybe for the wrong reasons, but maybe that's how you learn what the right ones are." Vincent frowned. A few members shifted uncomfortably. Amelia locked eyes with them all. "I used to believe leadership meant never showing weakness, but maybe the real failure is never showing care." The silence was heavier now. Then someone clapped. Soft, slow. It was Gloria, the oldest member of the board. She looked up from behind her glasses and said simply, "It's about time you found something worth fighting for." Outside the glass walls of the tower, rain had started to fall. Soft, gentle, cleansing. Amelia returned to her office, but the tension followed her like static. Her assistant Claire met her at the door. "You've got a visitor." "Not now," Amelia muttered. She insisted. Amelia paused, and then she heard it, the unmistakable sound of June giggling from the hallway. She turned, eyebrows raised. June came bounding in wearing her rainbow raincoat and rubber boots, clutching a juice box. Behind her, Liam, damp from the rain hair, curling slightly at the ends. "What are you two doing here?" Amelia asked, startled but not displeased. "Field trip," Liam said. "Your assistant said the board meeting might run long. Figured we'd bring snacks." June held up a brown paper bag. "We brought cookies and napkins." Amelia blinked. "You stormed a Fortune 500 headquarters with cookies better than storming it with lawsuits," Liam said. Amelia tried not to smile. She failed. Claire grinned. "I put them in the family lounge." Amelia looked around at her office, her glass walls, her carefully curated empire. Then back at them. "Come on," she said softly. "You should see the view." They stood together at the window, June between them, fogging the glass with her little breaths. Below, the city stretched out like a mosaic, chaotic and perfect. "Does your whole company fit in this building?" June asked. "No," Amelia said. "Just the ones who think they run the world." June nodded. "Do you?" Amelia thought about that. "No," she said. "But I used to." Liam watched her. "You held your own in that room," he said quietly. "Didn't let them rattle you." "I was shaking inside." "That's what makes it count," he replied. "Courage isn't not shaking, it's standing anyway." She turned toward him. "How do you do that? Always say the exact thing I didn't know I needed to hear." He shrugged. "I've had practice. Life has a way of humbling people until they learn to speak soft." June yawned. "Time to head home," Liam said. "I want to stay." June whined. "There's no cartoons here," Liam said. "But there's snacks and spinny chairs." Amelia chuckled. "You can come back any time." June brightened. "Even if I don't wear a suit, especially if you don't." Before they left, June reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded sheet of construction paper. "Here," she said to Amelia, "it's a surprise." Amelia unfolded it carefully. A drawing of her, Liam, June, all holding hands. But this time, above their heads, June had written, "Love is not a meeting." Amelia stared at the words, throat tight. June added, "You don't have to wear fancy shoes to love someone. You just have to mean it." Liam gave Amelia a look. "That's your daughter now, too." Amelia folded the paper and pressed it gently to her heart. "I think I'm starting to understand what that means." And as they disappeared down the elevator, Amelia returned to her office and slid the drawing beside her awards and plaques, a little reminder that some legacies aren't built in boardrooms, but in paper rings, sidewalk hugs, and juicebox field trips. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Not the kind that lulled you to sleep, but the kind that hummed just beneath your skin like a warning you couldn't quite place. Liam stood in the doorway of the kitchen barefoot, arms crossed, staring at the folder Amelia thought she'd hidden behind the cereal boxes. He didn't remember reaching for it, but now it was in his hands. A second contract. A legal draft of a prearranged divorce. Executed by Amelia Drake. Stamped, notarized, set to activate in the event of unfavorable public reception or loss of narrative control. Liam stared at the wording, the clauses, the ink too cold for human intention. So this was the plan all along. Insurance. Not the kind that saved lives. The kind that protected images. He didn't rage. He didn't shout. He just sat down at the kitchen table and folded his hands, the paper spread out like betrayal in black and white. The walls around him were dim, lit only by the soft glow of the stove clock, 2:11 a.m. He thought about the candlelight, the cocoa, June's drawings, Amelia laughing in the flower dust, and then he thought about this paper that said none of it mattered, that it was all still just business. He pulled a notepad from the drawer, the one June used for doodles. There were still faint scribbles on the back, a sun with sunglasses, a stick figure holding a mop, and he wrote. Not a rant, not a goodbye, just the truth. Amelia, I believed it. Every smile, every burnt cookie. Every time you looked at June like she was a map you forgot how to read. I wanted to think this was real, that maybe somewhere between your calendar alerts and your coffee spoons you started to care. Maybe you did. But this contract says otherwise. You planned a way out before you even found your way in, and that's not how I live. That's not what June deserves. We don't do exit strategies here. We do staying power, and I need to protect that before this becomes another story she has to unlearn. I hope you find what you're looking for. Liam. He left the note on the kitchen table, weighed down by the paper ring June had given her. Then he packed a small overnight bag. He didn't take much, just a change of clothes, his tool belt, and June's favorite blanket. He walked quietly into her room. She was curled on her side, one arm wrapped around her stuffed rabbit mouth, open slightly in sleep. He knelt beside her. Hey, Bug, he whispered, brushing a curl from her forehead. We're gonna go stay at Uncle Carl's for a little bit. June stirred. Is it an adventure? Kind of, he said gently, but only for a little while. Her eyes opened halfway. Will she come too? He hesitated. I don't know. June blinked. Maybe she's scared, like when I was scared of the deep end. He nodded. Maybe. She snuggled deeper into his shoulder. We can leave her a floaty. He carried her out into the night. Amelia woke up to silence. No smell of coffee, no laughter in the hallway, no cartoon theme song blaring from the living room. She frowned, checked her phone dead again, and padded out of the bedroom. The kitchen was empty, except for a note and the paper ring. She read it 3 times. Each word cut cleaner than the last. She sank into the same chair Liam had sat in hours earlier. She didn't cry. Not at first. Not until her eyes landed on the ring again, the one she hadn't taken off since that courthouse morning. And suddenly, the paper on her finger felt heavier than gold. She drove to Carl's garage by instinct. Didn't call, didn't ask permission. When Carl opened the door and saw her, he didn't say anything, just nodded toward the back. Liam was fixing a sink in the staff kitchen. June sat on the counter legs, swinging, telling a story about dinosaurs with socks. When Amelia stepped in, Liam looked up and the silence between them was the longest they'd ever shared. I didn't think you'd come, he said finally. I didn't think you'd leave, she replied, voice brittle. You left first, Amelia. You just stayed in the house when you did. She flinched. I didn't mean you planned it, he cut in, but his voice wasn't cruel, just tired. You wrote our ending before we ever had a beginning. Amelia stepped forward. I didn't know I'd care. That's not good enough, Liam said. Her eyes filled with something she rarely allowed rawness. I'm not good at this. I know, he said gently. But neither am I. That's what made it feel real. She looked over at June, who gave a tiny wave, then returned to her dinosaur drawing. I never had anyone to stay for Amelia, whispered. Not until you, not until her. Liam looked down. I need to unlearn a lot, she said. We all do, he answered. But first you need to stop writing exit plans for things you haven't even tried to love yet. She nodded slowly, every breath catching like glass in her chest. "I'll go," she said. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." She turned, but Liam's voice stopped her. "What if he said you came back but this time with no contract?" She turned back to face him. "No backup plan, no clause, just the mess, just the dinner table, just the real." Amelia swallowed. "I don't know if I know how to stay." Liam met her eyes. "Then stay until you do." And for the first time in her life, Amelia Drake didn't run from the fire. She stood in the middle of it, gutted, humbled open, holding the paper ring like a promise she finally wanted to keep. "Your appointment's in room 2. You're early." The receptionist didn't look up as Amelia signed her name on the intake form. Her voice was flat, distracted, but not unkind. "Have you been here before?" the woman asked. Amelia paused, pen hovering. "No," she said quietly, "but I think I should have been." She walked down the hallway past walls painted in soft teal and muted yellow, crayon drawings framed like gallery pieces, a sign that read, "Healing isn't linear. It's a spiral staircase." She hated spirals. They didn't fit in spreadsheets. The room was small. No desk, no judgmental clock ticking down the hour. Just a couch, 2 armchairs, a box of tissues, and the faint smell of lavender oil. The woman who greeted her was mid-50s, mixed gray curls, linen pants. No clipboard, just warm eyes that didn't flinch. "Amelia Drake," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Miriam. Please sit wherever feels least terrifying." Amelia blinked. Least terrifying. Miriam smiled. Therapy humor, bad habit. Amelia chose the armchair, rigid, controlled, expected. Miriam folded into the couch across from her. "So, what brings you in?" Amelia took a long breath. "I'm trying not to lose the only people who've ever made me feel something I can't quantify." Miriam waited. Amelia looked down. A man, his daughter, and a version of myself I didn't think existed. Miriam nodded. "What do you want out of our time? I want to stop sabotaging things that feel too good to be true." There was a silence, the kind that wasn't awkward, but reverent. Then Miriam said something that cracked the air wide open. "You don't fear love, Amelia. You fear being loved in a way you can't control." Amelia didn't speak for a long time, and when she did, her voice broke a little. "I don't know how to accept kindness without wondering what it'll cost." Meanwhile, across town, Liam was back at the house. He moved slowly, cautiously, like someone returning to a place that remembered both the joy and the fracture. June had drawn another picture on the fridge. This one showed a heart with a bandage on it. Underneath, in rainbow markers, even ouch hearts can still love. Liam didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He did both. The next day, Amelia returned to the house just after sunset. No announcement, no black car, just a grocery bag in one arm and a toolbox in the other. Liam opened the door with June at his side. Amelia took a breath. "I thought I'd fix the squeaky cabinet hinge," she said, "and make lasagna." June gasped. "Lasagna?" "You cook now," Amelia smiled softly. "I YouTubed it and bought backup frozen pizza. Just in case." June leapt forward and wrapped her arms around Amelia's waist. Amelia stiffened for a second, but only a second before sinking into the hug like a woman learning how to breathe again. That evening, the 3 of them cooked together. It was messy. Flour in Amelia's hair, sauce on Liam's shirt, June eating half the cheese before it reached the dish. No tablets, no agendas. Just music playing softly from the corner speaker, Aretha Franklin this time. Halfway through the song, Liam offered Amelia his hand. She hesitated. "I don't dance," she whispered. He leaned in. "Neither do I. That's what makes us perfect." She placed her hand in his, and in the small space between the fridge and the kitchen table they swayed. Awkward. Offbeat. Perfect. Later, after June had fallen asleep, curled up beside her drawing of a family with no lines crossed out. This time, Amelia sat with Liam on the back steps. The stars blinked above them like they were watching something sacred. Amelia cleared her throat. "I met with a therapist." Liam looked over surprised, but not shocked. "Yeah, She said, "I confuse kindness with transactions. That I don't know how to receive unless I'm offering something in return." He was quiet. Then he said, "You gave June half a cookie and a full hug today. That's more than most people manage in a lifetime." Amelia looked at him. "I'm trying to unlearn things. Slowly. Bad habits, old armor." He reached over and gently took her hand. "You don't have to do it all at once." She leaned into his shoulder. "I want to earn this. You, her, not just fall into it like a good PR strategy." Liam turned to her eyes steady. "You don't earn love, Amelia. You choose it, and then you fight like hell to protect it." She nodded slowly, tears slipping down without permission. "I spent so long being afraid of needing anyone. Now I'm afraid of not being enough." "You already are," he said softly, "and you don't even see it yet." She closed her eyes. "I didn't know people like you existed." Liam smiled. "You do now." Before heading inside, Amelia pulled something from her coat pocket, a crumpled flyer. She handed it to Liam. "What's this?" he asked. "It's a community art program for kids who've experienced grief or change." He read it. "It meets Saturday mornings, near the park. June might like it." Liam looked up at her. "You found this?" "I asked Miriam, my therapist. She knows someone who runs it." Liam stared at her amazed. "You're not just unlearning," he said. "You're rebuilding." Amelia nodded. "I think I'm finally ready to live without the exits marked." And that night, under a quiet sky and a flickering porch light, Amelia Drake left something on the kitchen counter. A torn contract, ripped straight through the middle, with a note written on the back that simply read, "No more plans, just love." Rain fell like a soft curtain, delicate and unhurried, soaking into the grass and dripping off the edges of the old park bench where Liam sat. He watched the sidewalk glisten beneath the overcast sky. Watched as people passed with umbrellas and hurried steps, none of them knowing that this spot, this ordinary bench near a cracked fountain, was where his life had begun to shift. Where Amelia had once shown up in designer heels and sharp angles offering a marriage like a business deal. He hadn't expected her to return here, and yet there she was, walking toward him. No umbrella, no assistant, no script. Just a woman with soaked hair, tear-stung eyes, and something clutched tightly in both hands. Liam stood slowly. Neither of them spoke right away. The rain whispered around them like a secret. Amelia stepped closer. She was shaking, but not from the cold. From everything else. "I picked the wrong place to start," she said. "I should have started here, with honesty, with heart, with this bench." Liam waited, eyes steady. She took a breath that caught halfway through her chest, then another, and then she sank to one knee. Not gracefully, not like the movies. Her coat hit the wet ground, her knees bent stiffly, but her hands never trembled. She opened her palms to reveal what she carried, a small plastic case. Inside it, sealed behind clear resin, was the paper ring June had made, pressed, preserved, glimmering under the rain like something holy. "I had it laminated," she whispered, "because I didn't want to risk it falling apart. I didn't want to forget what mattered." Liam's breath hitched. "I didn't marry you for love," she said. "But now I can't breathe without it, not without her, not without you." The sky opened just a little more, and still she stayed on her knees. "I don't have a diamond," Amelia said, voice breaking. "I have this messy, smudged, perfect thing made by a little girl who believed in family before I ever did." She looked up at him through rain and heartache and hope. "I came into this to save my reputation," she said. "But you saved something I didn't even know was dying inside me." She held out the ring. "Will you marry me again, but for real this time?" There was no one else in the world right then. Just the man who had once handed her cocoa in the dark, the woman who had once feared touch, and a ring made of paper and belief. Liam dropped to his knees too. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was right. Because sometimes you need to meet someone exactly where they are, soaked, scared, trembling, but choosing to stay. He took the ring in his hand, ran his thumb across the hardened plastic. remembered how fragile it had once felt, how fragile she had once seemed. "I never stopped choosing you," he said softly, "even when you gave me reasons not to." She blinked through tears. "And I will keep choosing you," he added, "every damn day. But not because it's convenient, or strategic, or smart." He leaned closer. "I'll choose you because you stayed to learn what love is, even when it scared you." Amelia made a soft, broken sound, half sob, half laugh, and leaned forward until their foreheads touched. And there, in the rain, on a public bench surrounded by strangers and street noise, they kissed. Not a first kiss, a new one. Built not on contracts but on trust. Not on headlines but on healing. Later that night, June stood in the kitchen in her pajamas, arms crossed. "You're late," she said, tapping her foot. "I was supposed to get the first dance." Amelia grinned. "We had rain." June huffed dramatically. "Rain is romantic. Haven't you seen cartoons?" Liam lifted her up, spinning her in a circle. "How about we all get the first dance?" she squealed. "Even Pepper the spider." "No," Amelia said quickly. "Pepper can sit this one out." They danced in the kitchen barefoot and imperfect. Liam humming. June spinning in her socks. Amelia, watching them, hands lightly on Liam's shoulders, her heart, finally still enough to hear itself. Later, after June had fallen asleep beneath a fort of pillows and storybooks, Liam found Amelia sitting at the table, the paper ring still beside her. She was sketching something rough outlines on the back of an envelope. "What's that?" he asked. "A house?" she said softly. He leaned closer. "Ours?" She nodded. "A real one. I've been looking at a fixer-upper in Astoria. Big yard. Needs love. I thought, maybe we could build it together." Liam sat beside her. "New walls," she whispered. "No ghosts. No emergency exits." He looked at her, his voice soft. "You sure?" She nodded again. "For the first time in my life, I'm choosing something I can't control." He reached across the table, gently squeezed her hand. "That's how you know it's real," he said. And just before turning in for the night, Amelia opened the junk drawer, the one that used to hold contracts, and placed the resin-sealed ring inside. Not to hide it, but to keep it safe, because some promises aren't signed. They're lived. The house wasn't big. The porch still creaked and the fence leaned just enough to suggest it had a story of its own. But there was music playing inside Aretha again, faint and happy, and the smell of cinnamon rolls drifted through the open kitchen window like an unspoken invitation. Amelia Drake stood barefoot in front of the stove, hair pulled up in a loose bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. She flipped through a recipe card, not an app, not a typed printout, but an actual card handwritten in slightly smudged blue ink. June had insisted handwritten things tasted better. Behind her, Liam tightened a screw on a cabinet hinge, pausing only to sip his coffee from a mug that read, "World's Okayest Husband." June sat cross-legged on the floor with a glue stick and a shoebox labeled emergency cookie supplies. She looked up. "Daddy, do you think stars have best friends?" Liam didn't miss a beat. "Absolutely, but only the really bright ones." Amelia smiled without turning. "So, what does that make us?" June beamed. "A whole galaxy." The transformation hadn't been overnight. There were still mornings when Amelia reached for her phone before her heart. Still moments when silence felt sharp instead of soft. Still days when Liam flinched at invoices or June woke from dreams about hospitals. But now, healing wasn't a theory. It was practice. Amelia had stepped back from Aurora Holdings. She remained chairwoman, but she'd handed daily operations to her executive team. Instead, she poured herself into something new, the June Initiative, a foundation offering healthcare coverage to working-class single parents, quietly funded, fiercely protected. "I didn't lose my edge," she told the press at the launch event. "I just found something worth sharpening it for." That afternoon, they hosted their first backyard family day. Nothing fancy, just neighbors, paper streamers, a used grill Liam fixed up with June's help. Amelia stood by the picnic table, laughing without measure as Mr. Washington from next door attempted to hula hoop while balancing a soda can. Liam watched her from a distance, apron on tongs in hand. Carl nudged him. You ever think this would be your life? Liam shook his head, eyes still on Amelia. Not even in the best dream. Looks like you're living one. Liam glanced toward June, who was now selling lemonade for hugs instead of quarters. He nodded. I think we all are. Later that night, the guests gone, the dishes stacked in the sink and the air still warm with the echo of joy. Amelia stepped out onto the porch. She carried a small glass jar in her hand. Liam followed, drying his hands on a dish towel. What's that? He asked. She held it up. Inside was the laminated paper ring, now nestled beside a folded note and a pressed daisy. A time capsule, she said. For June. To open when she turns 18. Liam smiled. What's the note say? Amelia looked out toward the darkening sky. It says, the first thing I ever gave your father was a contract. The first thing you ever gave me was a cookie. You win. Liam laughed softly. Seems fair. Amelia leaned against his shoulder. I used to think love had to be earned, she whispered. Proven. Balanced. Negotiated. He slipped his arm around her. And now I know it just has to be chosen. She turned to him fully. I choose you, Liam, not because I need to, but because every day I want to. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. And I choose you, Amelia. The messy you, the healing you, the still figuring it out you. They kissed slow and certain. A seal, not of a deal, but of a promise. Inside, June had left her latest masterpiece taped to the fridge. A crayon drawing of a house with a slightly crooked roof, a sun with sunglasses, and 3 smiling stick figures holding hands. Above them, in careful bubble letters, love doesn't have to be perfect to be home. They say love is a risk, that it asks more than it gives, that it takes before it offers. But maybe the real kind of love, the one built on honesty, forgiveness, and late-night burnt cookies, isn't a transaction. Maybe it's a choice you keep making even on the days when it's hard. Maybe it's not about contracts or security or headlines. Maybe it's about sitting at a small kitchen table with mismatched mugs and learning how to stay. Not for the story, but for the life after it. And in the quiet hum of a house that had once been too small for dreams, a former janitor, a once heartless CEO, and a little girl with too much love for one world finally came home. And if you're still here, thank you. Maybe this story reminded you of someone in your life. Someone who taught you that love isn't a transaction. It's a choice. A quiet one, made every single day. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. You'd be surprised how many hearts are healing right alongside yours, from Ohio to Osaka, from a quiet kitchen in Texas to a rainy cafe in London. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something real, consider subscribing. This channel is home to stories that celebrate love, dignity, second chances, and the quiet power of kindness. And don't forget to leave a comment, we read them all. Truly, your words help shape the next story we tell. Until then, thank you for spending this time with us. May your home be filled with warmth, your heart with courage, and may you always choose love even when it's hard. We'll see you in the next story. Take care.